Hey guys, in the middle of doing some work and figured I would do a video which highlights how to get out screws that, like these two, on a chassis that have red Loctite without stripping the screw. So typically I use this blue Loctite, the gel I like best. Works for 90% of the screws I need. Every once in a while you need this really tough red thread locker, which is way harder to get off unless you do it a certain way. So these two screws in particular have it. They're the ones that hold in the steering rack, the servo saver here, this one and this one underneath are held in really tight. Another screw that can be good to use it for is when you're trying to get out these hubs. There's a tiny grub screw in there that if you're not careful you can easily strip, and which makes a small job turn into a much more difficult job, because now you've got to get that stripped grub screw out. So the most simple and effective way is to use a butane torch. I got off of Amazon. This is sort of like a cooking torch used for creme brulee and whatnot. You could use a regular lighter too, but this gets a little hotter, and you can turn it way up, and it's a direct hit. You know, it's not gonna as much get on the plastic and potentially melt it. So all you do is light it. Let's say you're trying to get these two screws off. You would just simply light it and torch that area, torch for a good minute or two, and that's gonna basically boil the thread locker and loosen it up. And once you have those good and tight, or good and hot, then you're gonna just simply take both ends, get a driver on both ends, and should come off fairly easily. You might, if you have this servo saver off, there's a metal bolt sticking out of the chassis, and that's really the one that's thread locked in, and you're going to need to heat that. You might need to heat that up too and use some vice grips, perhaps crank on that and then unthread it. The same here when you're taking off the hubs. You would take off this wheel nut, try not to hit the plastic, and just sort of torch it. Torch, let it bubble. It might bubble through. You might see the thread locker bubbling. It will be good and hot. And of course, do not touch any of this. It goes without saying, but you can forget. So just grab it with pliers and it should come right out nice and easily. Don't struggle with it. Don't try to wrench it as hard as you can. Those grub screws will strip very easily if you're not careful. So take this method and you might save yourself a ton of work.
One other thing that's important to mention is getting quality tools. I used to think this was not such a big deal, and the hobby's so expensive anyway that I would, try to save a buck here and there and get some cheaper tools that you can get on Amazon. But this is an example of a more expensive tool, but totally worth it. MIP makes these. I've found them really good. They have really strong material in the actual hex. And so if you get yourself some of these, I believe these are MIP too, and I use them for my drill. If you get a cheaper tool, what can happen is this hex can round off more easily and end up stripping the bolt. So once that happens, it's a lot harder to get out. So I definitely recommend investing in some quality tools.